I thought I'd make a little video on how to do a bound buttonhole since it featured on the Sewing Bee. So to start off with, you have your face fabric of your garment and you would mark the buttonholes taking the measurements from your pattern or deciding where you wanted them yourself. So I've marked the cross of the buttonhole and horizontal lines either side, and I've extended these lines up and down and across my fabric. Then the piece of cloth for the flanges of the buttonhole, I've done the same. So my buttonhole is going to be 1 centimetre wide by the same width, which is 2.5 centimetres or 1 inch. And I'm going to place that over there, so that's why the markings have been extended. I've also interfaced on the back of the fabric just around the buttonhole area. So I'm going to place the buttonhole fabric onto my cloth and line both the vertical and the horizontal lines up, and this is the area I'm going to stitch. So I've selected a short length of stitch, about 2 millimeters, and I'm going to start in the middle, not on a corner. And I'm just going to stitch down, closely following my drawn lines. Now when I come to the corner, it's important that I land exactly on the corner. So the needle is right in on the corner. And it sometimes helps to count the stitches, especially on the short ends. Right, that is 5 stitches. I need to make another tiny little half stitch right on that corner. So some very precise machine work is required for this. And when I come back to my starting point, I'm overlapping my stitches by about 3 stitches. Okay, so that's me stitched around my rectangle. Now I'm going to cut my buttonhole. So I'm just going to pinch it in the middle and using my small sharp embroidery scissors, make a hole. And I'm going to cut along the centre line. Now it's up to you whether you want to draw the angles on, but you want to cut at an angle, 45 degrees, right into the corner. Careful not to cut your stitches. Right, now I'm going to go and press that. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of steam. You see all my marks have disappeared now because I've used a heat sensitive pen. So I don't need those marks anymore. Then I'm going to lift up and just press all around that edge and on the other edge. And under the short edges too, why not? And that will encourage this top piece of cloth and help it to fold through. So we're just going to post this through to the back. And just give it a bit of a wiggle and encourage it to lie flat on the reverse side. Now I'm going to press again to crisp up those edges and make the fabric lie flat on the back. Okay, so now I'm going to repress these cut sections into the centre. Turn back my extra cloth over and around to form my first flange, or lips as they're sometimes called. Just checking from the front. There we go. So I'm going to repeat for the second side. And hopefully the two should meet neatly along the centre. And you can just use your fingers to manipulate the fabric and make them lie flat and neat. And again, just check from the front that they look even. So now I'm going to go back to the machine. So I'm going to go to the back and peel this side over, and this little triangle there, I'm going to stitch that down to close off the short end. And I'm going to stitch just over the previous stitching. Oh, threads come out. What I keep telling everyone, don't leave your thread end too short or it'll jump out of the needle. Okay, right, I'm going stitch across the triangle on the short end. And repeat on the other end. Oh, I don't believe it. The thread was snagged higher up, that's what it was. Okay, see that again. I'm going to repeat on the other side, stitching the small triangle down. Yeah, that's got a little bit uneven in the final stitching process, but I was taking more care if I was doing this for real. Before I do the final hand finishing stage, I'm just going to trim away some of this excess fabric on the back. So I can take all that off, and it's quite bulky at the edges here, so I'm going to just clip this bit off and clip that bit off. And this is known as grading or layering your seam allowances, and it just reduces the bulk of the fabric. And so anywhere you have several layers, we're just going to trim away, and also I'm going to make that more of a rounded corner. And I'll do the same on the other side. So again, reducing the bulk by reducing the layers. Right, now I'm ready for a little bit of hand stitching to finish. So firstly, I've slip stitched the two edges together to give the whole piece some stability. Then I've come back out with my thread from the back to the front, right along that stitching line. And what I'm going to do is tiny prick stitches right along that line to secure this piece here down to the background. And just make sure your stitches are right in the seam. You don't want these to show. And I've also got a very small sharp needle. So now I've finished the prick stitches along both of the seam lines. This has secured the backing fabric. You can see my little stitches on the back. And normally you would leave the slip stitches in to seal this until you'd finish the garment. I've just taken them out so you can see there's one bound buttonhole.